Thank you for joining us in the demo portion of this webinar. Our goal for this demo is to configure two items, log data to a CSV file, and graph the items. Let's get started. Here you have the EasySense software, which is included with each data acquisition system. You can download this from our support site and run it in demo mode without buying the hardware. You'll find EasySense 2100 for the UPC 2100 PCI card, EasySense 2250 for the USB 2250 sensor interface box, and EasySense 2251 for the USB 2251 sensor interface box. The two windows you see here are the sensor configuration window and the data logging controls window. Here we'll configure the sensors connected to our terminal block. And down here in the data logging controls window, we will tell our test what data logging parameters we want set up. So to set up a sensor, for this demo, I have a DP15 connected to channel 6A, and I have a TCU reference junction on the terminal block. Here you see we have an item, a sensor type, a sensor subtype, a channel, a range, engineering unit, scale factor, offset, averaging, precision, tag ID, and a reading. Each of these boxes is configurable. We can have up to 24 items with different kinds of sensors. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to use item 0 to configure the DP15. So as you can see here under item 0, I'm going to pick the DP15 is a AC sensor, so I'm going to go ahead and pick the AC sensor. You can see that there's a lot of different options. If I pick a different sensor type, the sensor subtype changes. So I know DP15 is an AC sensor. I'm going to go ahead and pick that. I know it's a variable reluctance sensor, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that. I know it's connected to channel 6A, and as you see here, you can pick from all the different channels. If it was connected to a different channel, I would pick that channel. So I'm going to go ahead and pick channel 6A. I know the output of this sensor is about 35 millivolts per volt, so I'm going to pick the next highest gain range. We have everything from 6 millivolts per volt to 3.07 volts per volt. This again changes depending on your sensor type and sensor subtype. Because it's an AC sensor, a variable reluctance AC sensor, it's going to give you the range in millivolts per volt. So I'm going to pick, since the 35 millivolts per volt full scale, I'm going to go ahead and pick 48, the next highest range. Here you can pick what the engineering units will be recorded as. This is just a tag, so it doesn't really do any conversion. But for example, if I want this in inches of H2O, I'm going to go ahead and type that in here. We'll go real quick on how to configure that. But the scale factor and offset are set to 1 and 0 by default. What this does is it will give the scale factor multiplies whatever you put in here to the reading. So for example, right now the reading is showing 0.0, but I'm going to go ahead and open the precision up. So as you can see, the sensor is actually reading 0.00489 volts per volt. So the AC sensors and EasySense give out readings in volts per volt. I'm going to go ahead and make that millivolts per volt by multiplying this by 1,000. Anytime you change anything that needs to be registered by the card, you'll see this button turns red. If this button is red, that means your reading is not a valid reading, because it's not taken into account the changes you've made onto sensor configuration window. To get that registered to the card, all you do is press to activate, and once it's green, that's a valid reading. So you see we just multiplied the original reading by 1,000 to get negative 4.89, which is now in millivolts per volt. But I want to make this into inches of water, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is calibrate it. I already know that the offset is about negative 4.9, so I'm going to go put there negative 4.9, or I'm going to add 4.9 to it, sorry, to make that really close to 0. I really don't need these many decimal places, so I'm going to go ahead and pick about 2 decimal places. That's a pretty good 0, 0.01, 0.02. We could change that if you want to get to 0. Oops. That's what I meant to do. So that's a pretty good 0. The scale factor would be, once you know the full scale of the unit, say it's 400 inches of water, you put in 400 inches of water, divide the number you see here by 400 to get a good scale factor. For the purposes of this demo, let's just assume it's 1,000. And here the tag ID would be a combination of the serial number and the location of the sensor. You could put in whatever you want. You could put in DP1 or anything that identifies the reading you're getting out. So in this case, I've put in the serial number and kind of where it's located. It's located in the front cabin. So we've configured the first item. I want a data log, so I'm going to leave it yes. The second item we're going to configure is the LM61 thermistor that's on there. I'm going to go ahead and click on item 1. I know it's a TC reference junction. It's a LM61, and as you see, it defaults to the settings out here. It defaults into degrees Fahrenheit, which I'm going to go ahead and which is already typed into the engineering units field. I know that the terminal block is in the control room, so I went ahead and put that in there. This reading here is in degrees Fahrenheit. You can pick how many decimal places you might need. We know for temperature you really don't care about anything past maybe 1 decimal place, but just to show you the different features, you could pick a whole number and it would just give you the temperature out there. I'm going to pick 1 decimal place so we can know the difference if you care about that. So that kind of shows you the sensor configuration window. Now if you want to see all the channels you've configured, you can go ahead and click on View and click on Configuration Display, and this will give you a display of all the items you've configured. We've only configured 2, and you'll see the 2 that are configured right here. If you had more than 2, you would see them all listed down here. You could print that configuration if you choose to, or you could leave this window open to see the current data. I'm going to go ahead and put some pressure on the positive side to show you that the data is moving. I'm going to go ahead and put some pressure on the negative side and of this DP15, and you'll see the data has gone down. And so this is a live data. This screen is updated twice a second, and it's just for purposes of just seeing the live data as it's changing. I'm going to go ahead and close this for now. So let's move on to the data configuration, data logging controls. Here I'm going to go ahead and pick about 100 scans. You could switch this off if you want unlimited data logging. We can, let's go ahead and do that. I want data twice a second recorded, so I'm going to go ahead and pick 500 millisecond. As you see, when I picked 500 milliseconds, that changed because now we need to tell the hardware that we've changed the scan interval. So I'm going to go ahead and press to activate. So once it's green, so we know again the data is valid. I want my units in seconds, and so that's great. And let's go ahead and get started. So hit start. I'm going to pick a name. I'm going to say Demo 1 and hit OK. And here you'll see that the data is being recorded twice a second. You'll see the sensor data, and I'll go ahead and hit it so we can see something moving. There you see it, and on the right you see the temperature. You could hide this grid and the data will be recorded. You can see the data recording is on because the stop button is it says stop instead of start, so the data is continuously logging. You could hit stop here, and now the data is finished logging. What it did was it recorded all that data we were logging into demo1.csv, as you can see right here. So that shows you a quick demo on EasySense. Let's get to the graphing version. To get to graphing, we go to View, Graph, and this is part of the premium software package. Hope you can see the full screen here. The graphing utility is pretty simple. It gives you title, the number of traces. Say right now I just want to record maybe the pressure. I'm going to go ahead and hit number of traces 1, and then here this sub configuration menu gives you the items you want to configure, the color, the line, and the symbol, X, Y, or YT. For the demo purposes, we're going to do a YT graph. I'm going to pick item 0 because that's my DP15 sensor. I really don't want to graph the temperature. Well, you can if you choose to. I'm going to leave the defaults as is, and I hit OK. You get to a little more, you get some more options here. It picks up the access label from your item. It picks up, it defaults elapsed time in seconds, the unit you want out. I'm going to go ahead and leave the scale to 0 and 60, and the Y scale, because we know that's around 0, I'm going to go pick -5 to +5. Oops, sorry. To +5, so we can see the 0 kind of in the middle. You could change it on the fly, or you could leave it as is if you know what your top full scale is. And I'm going to go ahead and start. The data is recorded as what you set it in the data configuration control login control window. So we set it at twice a second, so it's going to just graph it twice a second. So even though you do not log the temperature or did not graph the temperature, it's going to get logged into the data CSV file. So I'm going to go hit start and say graph demo 1, and what you'll see here is the graph here is the graph from the axis, the scale that you have, and down below is a historical graph where you will see it from 0 to the end of the test. I'm going to go ahead and move this up and down. You'll see a little, there you go, and then if we go up, so as you can see, the data is live, and it's graphing. I've released it, and so it's come back to 0. So go ahead and stop this for now. So here you could see the graph. You could zoom into certain parts of it, and it'll show you. It's way too zoomed in, but you get the idea here. You could save the graph. So I'm going to go ahead and file, save the graph setup. That's the top portion of it, and the trace configuration. You can open the graph setup, save the graph as a JPEG, print it out. It just prints to your printer. You can open a previously saved graph. I hope you guys enjoyed this portion of the webinar. This was just a quick demo on the features of EasySense. We will in the future have detailed tutorials on using EasySense for you or your customers. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you guys at the next webinar.